Our next conversation is going to be about how to manage your own finance, the personal finance side of things. And this one, you see, the other one, we were talking about how now to go and borrow money from a bank, and then you have the money. And at what point do you go and borrow the money? At what point, should you be borrowing money at that point, or can you even think about borrowing money? Because you're okay, you're comfortable, can you actually take a loan to advance yourself, and then you are able to comfortably repay? Or should you only go and borrow money when the only thing you have left between you and poverty is that chair? Take the chair to the Shylock. Sikia boss, hii kitu unaona, hii ni mahogany, hii ni mvuli,
inakuweza
hii ni mvuli top quality. Hata nani alikuwa ameniambia naweza nipatia na 120,000.
Lakini kwa vile tunajuana,
nipatie 100.
Yes. Nikishindika kabisa, hata 20 ni sawa.
Our next guest is here to help us with that conversation. WAITHAKA GATUMIA is the CEO of Centonomy Limited. WAITHAKA, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
That conversation sounded too real. It's like you've had that experience yourself.
That's not
You've had that conversation a few times.
WAITHAKA, in this life,
there are many things. If it were not so, I would have told you.
City will give you the day's proverb. Let's hear your interpretation of this proverb today.
Yes. Our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the Republic of Zambia. Today's bush is tomorrow's forest.
Today's bush is tomorrow's forest. WAITHAKA's eyes lit up. He was like, I'll use that in my next class.
Loading immediately for the next one.
What's your interpretation of it?
Hey, small things, small beginnings. I think everything starts that way. And you can only see its potential. No, it is wisdom to see the potential at that stage. I think that's what I see.
It's a wisdom.
Yes.
The wisdom of it.
Yes.
There was an article in the newspapers the other day, the news article, and this is data from the Central Bank of Kenya that is showing how people are accessing loans and what they're using as collateral to access loans. And a vast majority of those who are accessing loans are using household items as security. Now, what does that tell us?
I don't know that I want to focus too much on what is being used for collateral. Collateral is just the means by which you are securing the loan. That's it. The question here is, why are you taking the loan? And I guess that's why we are having such a huge issue around the finance bill that's going on at the moment. It's because so many people are right on the edge or have even gone over the edge as far as their finances are concerned. What does that mean? That we're in survival. There is no growth, and even that survival is continuously being reduced over time. And so we need to address that issue, because the reason that you're going to that Shylock, the reason that you're going to that loan provider, whichever institution it is, needs to be clear to you. Now, we've talked about this before, but I always have to repeat myself so people hear. There is good debt and there is bad debt. Now, what does that mean? It means when we borrow for consumption. Now, how do I make that more relatable? When I borrow for something that I am going to use for myself and not for growth, not when I borrow for something that is not going to put money in my pocket. I think that's the best way to look at it. If I borrow to buy something that will not put money in my pocket, but rather I use it for survival or even just for enjoyment, then I'm in danger. Why? Because in that transaction, I am losing money. Whereas if I borrow for an asset, and here, for those who, I'm in class, sorry, I apologize. For those who are in class and you're taking notes, an asset puts money in your pocket. So if I borrow for something that puts money in my pocket, I may be in that scenario gaining having borrowed. And that's where the issue is. So if you're borrowing to pay school fees, if you're borrowing to buy food, if you're borrowing to do things that are just going to take care of your current needs, there is danger in that because you're actually losing money. And that's what we need to address. Why are we at that level? If we address that, then these other issues of what we're using for collateral, those are other concerns that are there.
WAITHAKA, did I hear you mention school fees?
Yes,
That's bad debt.
it is because, okay, now, did I say school fees is bad?
No.
I did not say school
You said
fees is
borrowing
bad.
for-
I said debt for school fees is bad debt. Why? Because there is no financial return. And that's where we're going to struggle.
There's no immediate financial return.
There is no financial return,
There is
CET.
no immediate financial
Okay, give me which is
return.
which
If I
is the
borrow to
future
send
return.
myself to school and I
You're
eventually
being
start
here
a
as
business.
testimony of what I am saying.
Okay, yes,
Not all parents have money sitting waiting to pay fees.
correct.
So they borrow through their SACCOs, they borrow through whatever means, and they pay.
Yes,
That school fees means the student gets to learn.
correct,
When they study, eventually they get somewhere and they earn money. So
correct.
it is a return.
Yes. Who
One-
earns the money?
The student or the child earns the money.
Yes.
So it means the parent no longer has a dependent.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. But
Now-
does the parent get money
Yes,
from
they
that?
yes they do.
How do they get it?
They get money
Yes.
because this particular child, the moment the expenditure that you previously had no longer exists.
Yes.
So that is money now that is coming back to you.
Yes. I like your thinking, but I think I got in a lot of trouble the last time I was, not the last time, a few times back that I was here, and I was seated right where you are. And I shouted about this issue of expecting your children to take care of you in retirement because you said you made that investment, and you should have seen the number of comments of people calling in and writing in and saying this thing is true. It is such a heavy burden, and for many people it is not.
What about the individual who borrows to send themselves to school and then eventually gets a job?
Yes.
And then or starts a business?
So here's what I think we need. It's a definition issue.
Yeah.
I am not saying that borrowing to go to school or to send your children to school is a bad thing. I didn't say that. I said that the debt is bad. Why? Because you are losing financially. What does that mean? You're paying more than what that, let me explain.
At that point.
The school fees, let's say, as the example, let's say is 100,000 in a year, okay? But because you borrowed, you're paying 100,000 plus what? Interest. So you've paid more than what that school fees is actually worth today. And the potential return that it is so well bringing up is not guaranteed. And we don't know when it will come back
There's
to
something
you.
called opportunity cost.
Correct, yes.
And it's a term you understand very well.
Yes.
I didn't mention that the children then become your insurance. No, that's not what I'm saying. I am simply saying at some point
Yes.
that investment will cease to be a direct cost to you.
Correct.
Okay? Now, investments don't necessarily have to give you money for them to be worthwhile.
Yes.
There's something called satisfaction.
Yes.
Okay? There's something called understanding that someone's life has been made better and their well-being is assured.
Yes.
That, in my opinion, is a far better insurance.
So it's like government borrowing money to build a road.
Yes.
It will not make money from the
That
road.
road won't give the government money, not necessarily unless it's
But
in
people
Kenya.
will ply that route and take their product from farm to market.
It-
People
it
will
could
go from
make
point
them
A to
money.
In
point
this country,
B.
the road makes you money.
Oh, well,
It
this
could
one.
make money if it had a toll on it. But can I disagree with you for just 1 second?
Please.
You cannot eat satisfaction.
You can.
You can't eat it.
Actually, you can.
Satisfaction cannot pay your rent.
Actually, it can.
Satisfaction cannot give you a secure future.
Actually,
but let me
it
get
can.
okay. Let's agree to disagree on that one. Can I give you the example of what I mean by bad debt? In fact, you've seen I've
Yes.
come with my work laptop today. I'm sitting here
Yes.
for those who are listening.
Yes.
Let me explain what I mean by bad debt, in that you're losing in the transaction.
Okay.
So here's the thing. If I purchase a vehicle, is a car a bad thing? No. It's a good thing. And I thank God even for my car that I have sitting outside here. It brought me here in comfort. I felt good driving that car. So a car is not a bad thing. However, if I borrow to buy that car, here's the transaction. Let's say I borrowed 1.8 million.
Okay.
Today, I'm doing an actual transaction here. 1.8 million. What kind of car will I get for 1.8 million? You can type in the chat. What do you think 1.8 will give you? Like a Toyota? Which one? It's not a big one. It's a small, like Toyota Auris.
Sour.
Field that level. Yeah. So at 19%, which is around what the banks are giving you right now.
19%.
19%.
Okay.
Yes. Per year. For 5 years, here's what you'll be paying. Every month, you'll be paying 46,000 for 60 months. Guess how much interest you'll pay over that period of time. Just take a guess before I give you the answer. How much do you think you'll pay in interest over that period? You borrowed 1.8 million.
Over 5 years.
Yes.
That's 60 months.
Yes.
And a 19% annual interest rate. $1 million.
Right on the dot. So, you paid $1 million in what? In interest. So, how much did you pay for this car?
1.8.
You paid 2.8 million for a car that when you bought it was worth how much? 1.8. Now, you own it 5 years later.
Yay.
How much is it worth?
I want to sell that car today. How much is it worth?
1.5.
If you are lucky. If you are lucky.
Maintained it well.
You mean
one owner, female driver, all those things.
In Parkland.
clean vehicle.
Yes.
Do you see that in this transaction, financially, you have lost? Now, in agreement with UCT, while you drove it, you felt good.
Yeah.
While you drove it, you felt comfortable. While you drove it, it gave you a status, isn't it? But financially, you have paid more than it's worth. During this entire period, all the money came out of your pocket for that period of time. Yeah. All the money.
You're absolutely right.
Because you paid insurance, you paid fuel at the cost that we're doing, maintenance, all those things. So when I say it is a bad debt, I didn't say that borrowing to buy the car is bad. It's that the debt is losing you money. Can I now give you the flip side so you understand what I am saying?
Okay.
If you took that same, let's say that 1.8 million, don't get the Auris or the Fielder. Get a smaller car. See, what you need is a car. Now get 2 smaller ones. Take one, put it on the road. Get a driver for yourself. Get them to go and do all these taxi businesses that are out here. Now, do you see, there's one car that is helping you pay your loan. It has actually become an asset because in that scenario, you have money coming where? Into your pocket. But the issue that we have is that most of the time when we borrow for things that take money out of our pocket. And if we don't address that issue, no matter what we talk about collateral and all these other things, we're going to find ourselves in trouble. So often it means that we are spending beyond what we have. Now, can you do it on a manageable level? Yes. But the issue is that for many people, in fact, that's why we are called into many organizations as Centonomy, we are called to go and train people. Why? Because the HR is having a look and seeing these guys have maxed out their salaries to the maximum. And now, because they have maxed out their salaries, the 2/3. They have maxed out now because they can't borrow anymore. They have to go to Shylocks.
Yeah.
So if we don't get our personal finance in order, this debt crisis will continue to be part of our lives.
Why do you think people are borrowing to the
Like
levels
this.
like this?
Yeah.
Because it's not fairy tale stuff.
That's
this
right.
is the reality.
We are borrowing to buy cars.
Yeah.
It's true.
But then also borrowing to buy food.
Yeah.
Why?
So there are 2 levels, and I'm going to speak about them. And every time I come, I have to do this. In this country, we have people who are at or near absolute poverty, where food is the actual concern. At that level, let me tell you this, and I say it every time I come. Please, if you have a relative or friend, if you have people in that space who are struggling literally to eat, please support them. Give them help. Don't loan them. We need to support one another. We need to build businesses that are going to employ these people. At that level, I can't hold it against somebody who's trying to survive, who has to borrow. If you look at your child and they're hungry and you wonder, this chair, that mahogany that we're talking about, let's go get it. Let's go get a loan to feed our children. I never blame such a person. But I encourage them, can we find something else to be able to build? Can I talk about the second group of people?
Yep.
The Kenyan middle class.
The
and
1.8
above.
car.
The 1.8 car guy. What it often means is this person is trying to live and show other people that I am doing better than I actually am.
No, WAITHAKA. No. This person qualifies for this loan. Okay?
Correct.
The 2/3 maneno has been calculated.
Yes.
And actually, they can afford to
Yes.
take the loan.
Yes.
So they're not living outside or beyond their means. They're living within their means. They're
What do you
living within the
mean?
means that they can pay monthly for that car.
What do you mean by they can afford? So here's the key.
Yeah.
As an employee, for example, what this money is supposed to do for you is supposed to take care of your current needs and your future needs. And here is the issue. When we talk about wealth and wealth creation as a whole, wealth is saying that you're building up assets for the future to sustain you in that future. Now, if I max out my salary today and I use it on everything that I need today, in the terms that you have just spoken about, I can afford it. But what does that mean? I have not saved, neither have I invested for the future where it is going to be able to take care of me. So my salary today is supposed to take care of my current needs, my food, my transport, all those things that I'm going to do. But I also must use it to save and invest so that it takes care of my future needs.
Okay.
So when you say I can afford it, it's within what I can be able to pay. Is it within that and it is negating our saving and potential for the future? That is where we need to have that discussion.
So then we'll have that discussion.
Yes.
Let's take a break. Because, well, at how much is it? 1.8 million. How much is it per month?
Per month is 46,000.
46,000.
Yes.
Okay. So if you can afford 46,000 and you can still put 5,000 for savings,
And you can still eat.
and you can and you're still
5,000,
No,
5K.
it's in the savings.
5.
This is for the future.
5.
Si iko ma.
Si future ni yangu.
Imewekwa.
It's 9:30. Kenya's biggest conversation. We're having a personal finance conversation this morning. Yeah. Debt versus savings. We're seeing the finance bill. We're seeing what kind of impact it's likely to have on your pocket. Let's go with the example that you gave us. All right. So here I am. I am employed. I earn some money. I look in the market. I see I want to drive a good car. I see, all right, 1.8 million shillings for a good car, blah, 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 blah. I see so maybe it's a car I can afford. And the monthly repayments over the next 5 years are going to be 46,000 shillings. So I go to my financial institution and I tell them I'd like to buy this car. And they see, so let's look at your pay slip. Can you afford? Do you have other loans? How much is your rent? Blah, 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 and all those things. 46,000 shillings you can actually afford. And I had gone there because I saw that I could afford 46K. How much money I pay for rent? Hiyo iko sorted. School fees, iko sorted. I even have some money I put in the sacco. Hiyo iko sorted. I have some kidogo money for, savings here and there. Na pesa ya sherehe imebaki. And I can still pay 46 and I'll afford to fuel the car and go to Vasha. And I'll do all these other things. But you called it a bad debt.
Yes.
And you said, because you're looking at all these things and how it's impacting on your savings and your journey towards a more sustainable future.
That's right.
See, I don't see the problem.
You don't see the problem there.
And
I don't see,
to see the problem.
And I
can't
don't-
afford it.
So again, we come back to what does it mean that I can afford it? That I have the money to pay it today, or that I have sufficient money to cover all my other plans for life as well
As this one.
as this one. That's where the issue is. And so we need to do a proper interrogation of what it means to say, I can afford.
Okay.
Having the money does not mean that you can afford. And that's, I know this is it's a tough, let me tell you, it's a tough lesson until you're inside it. And you find that people are in such a space in which they start with that one loan and then they take another one, and before they know it, because when you go, the financial institution is not concerned deeply about your future, about your needs, and about your plans and ambitions. What they are concerned about is, will we be able to collect our money on a monthly basis? They look, based on your salary, we can collect it. Now, whether as we collect it, you're able to save, invest for the future that you have, that is now on your side. If you are the one to make that decision. But for as far as we are concerned, you can afford it because you have the income to be able to do it. What I'm challenging us here is to say, we are not just debt-paying machines. You have an ambition, you have a plan, you have a goal for yourself, for your children, for your family. Instead of first looking at what the financial institution says you can do, look at what your personal goal is and then see how you fit this in. So I'm not here to say don't take a loan to buy a car. My issue is that people often take a loan to buy a car that will eat into their other goals. And that's the problem. Just the same, can I give you an example? You know that government employees, for example, and bank employees get preferential rates on their loans. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Like government employees, for example, on their mortgages, I believe it's about 3%. Can you imagine? While we are paying 18%. Okay? Now, here's what happens. And this is the mistake. Because the government employee can see my loan is so much, in quotes, cheaper than everybody else. Therefore, they end up buying a bigger house than they should for themselves and staying with that loan for a long period of time. So there's that pull towards saying, oh, it's cheaper for me, therefore I go further. And that's why we still have, at 3%, please, guys, would you be in deep trouble as far as your debt is concerned? Well, everybody else, can you imagine, is paying 18% on their mortgages today? So why are we still finding government employees having debt crises? It's because now they said my loan is cheaper. Instead of taking the house of 10 million, they say because my loan is at 3 million, they end up at 3%, they end up taking a house of 30 or 40 million. So they're still the amount coming out of their salary, the one they can afford,
it's the same as the one I'm paying at 18%.
The same one. So you're still having
house.
The same issue.
They have a bigger investment.
No.
Yes. I've bought 100 million shilling house, 30 million shilling house.
Yes.
Right? Because I am only paying at 3%.
Yes.
This other guy called Eric has a 10 million shilling house.
Yes.
Because he's charging 18%. I have a bigger house, I have a more valuable property.
But then this conversation, if you look at the number of Kenyans, the percentage of Kenyans who have mortgages, it's a percentage that statistically is almost irrelevant. If you look at the number of Kenyans who actually even have these so-called bank accounts and even save. See, the reality of our situation, what Brother WAITHAKA is preaching here is the ideal situation that we should all aim for. But certain things need to be constant.
Like
healthcare, education. There needs to be a semblance of stability where you, the person who's earning money, can take certain things for granted. Then even that saving that you talk about. So the best way we save is through SACCOs, because through the SACCO you can then borrow against the very thing that you have. So in actual reality, what you've saved is already leveraged. So if something were to happen, chances are you would, forget being maxed out, you'll be in the negative because you throw in interest and all that. And if they were to take your savings to cover their money, precisely. But our situation is that the vast majority of people who claim to be in the employment sector are in what we call the informal sector. Okay? And it isn't, they would wish to do the very things you're saying. But are they able to? If we look at our reality, can they actually do that? Yes.
How about those that are able to and they're doing it? Are they doing it right?
And that's why I'm here. Because listen to this. If we have a section of our economy that is beginning to do things right, and we are seeing the result of it, let me tell you, wealth is a good thing. Why? Because here I can see CT. You know, CT is an employer. And if City is doing well, he can employ even more people in his house.
Yeah.
Right now, he has probably somebody who's doing his garden. City has a guard at his gate. City has a maid in his house. I don't know if he has a driver. I didn't see anyone waiting outside here to drive your car. Wealth is
what does it need to look like for you to understand that?
no, I'm just saying. All I'm saying is I'm making assumptions. Wealth is a good thing. And what you can see is that wealth, even within the economy, begins to circulate. Why? What does that mean? If I have money in my pocket, I'll stop by a coffee shop down here and get myself a coffee. What does that mean? In that coffee shop, we have 4 or 5 young people who have been employed to buy that coffee. So when we're having this discussion, City, I do understand. And if you remember, I said a couple of minutes ago, we have Kenyans who are struggling. And that one, there are many different areas that we have to do. We help one another. We support one another. That's why we get aid and all those other things that we've discussed. But in this same country, we have one of the fastest growing middle classes that we have. That's why we're being called now a middle income economy. I am just saying it is happening. How do you know? Look around you. So maybe it's not happening.
Is it real or artificial?
It's not happening at the speed that hopefully that we think about, but for sure, when you're on the roads, how much traffic do you see? Where did that money come from to buy those cars?
The number of cars, or is the size of our roads?
I am saying there are more people driving cars now than when I started driving. There are more people who are employed today than we are. Now, the issue is that we're not building enough jobs at the speed that we have.
What I hear you, WAITHAKA, to be saying is that even as we now, those things that are showing us, like we have a growing and a budging middle class, right? The risk here is that it's all show, because many of those people are not doing things the right way. They are making the wrong financial choices. And we end up seeing big houses coming up. We end up seeing big cars on the road. We end up seeing all those things. And then we come back to what City always keeps saying, one paycheck away from losing all those things. Because, and that's why that's why you're saying what you're saying.
Yes.
You did not think about the future. You were thinking about the today. I bought because I can do 3%.
Yeah.
Take the bigger house.
That's
What's
right.
wrong with taking the bigger house?
So, what therefore is an asset? So, can I give you what I mean by this? Oh, this one I am going to. Oh, please bear with me, people, as you listen. Your house, if you live in it, is not an asset in the way that you think. Because living in your own home is not free. In fact, if you own your own home, it costs you money to live there. And that's something that we need to begin to understand.
WAITHAKA, where do you want people to live?
I want them to live in... Here's my issue,
Where do you... Okay.
I want you to live in your own home.
I bought my own house.
Listen carefully.
But I should not live in it.
Listen carefully. I want you to live in your own home, but I don't want you to be comfortable yet.
Okay.
I want you to make sure that you have other assets that pay you to live comfortably in your own home. Why do I say this? Because we train retirees. And this is the one thing that is the toughest thing. I spent my whole life, this is retirees speaking to me, I spent my whole life paying off this mortgage. I own this home, but now I'm here and I don't have money to go to the supermarket. But I'm living in my home. Millions of shillings worth. I cannot buy food in the supermarket. The car that I used to drive sits outside my house. I cannot drive it anymore because I don't have fuel to drive that car. So is the house a bad thing? No. But the house in and of itself is not financial freedom. When I talk about assets, please take this, those who are listening to me. Assets do what? Put money where? In your pocket. The more assets you have, the wealthier you are.
What if the asset retains money in your pocket? So my house, because I am living in this house of mine that I bought with my own money, WAITHAKA, I am now no longer paying rent.
You are not paying rent.
So I'm not removing money from my pocket.
For what? For rent.
For rent. I am retaining rent money in my pocket.
That is correct. But
So
now you own your own home.
Yes.
Don't you pay land rates on that in most counties?
Pesa kidogo.
Pesa kidogo ukiwa nayo. Here it is.
Okay.
You pay land rates on it.
Land rates,
Do you have a
yes.
landlord when your faucet breaks? Or there's an issue with the flooring? Or floods come?
I
You have a
repair.
landlord to call?
repair.
Who is the one to do it?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I'm talking about a retiree, please remember many times they don't have sufficient income to sustain that
Okay,
place.
so you know,
Yes.
what would you have people do?
I want you to focus first on assets, that put money where?
Pocket.
In your pocket.
WAITHAKA.
The more you have of them, the more financial freedom
Okay,
you
all right.
have.
I can understand what you're saying. I get
Yes.
it, right?
Correct.
But it's inspirational.
Aspiration.
It's no, it's inspirational. As in, you can say, yeah, I want you to
Yes,
have assets.
it's
I'm
very
inspiring. It's
inspirational.
very inspirational. It is also aspirational because people would want to get there. But the reality of the situation, and we're not just trying to be Debbie Downers and say, oh, well, woe unto me, it's raining and life is terrible. But the truth of the matter is that things today are quite difficult. So if somebody gets an opportunity to buy a house, for example, and now here is WAITHAKA Gatumia saying,
It's not an asset.
it's not an asset. That house is actually putting you
It's a
further into
liability.
poverty.
Yeah.
So what are you saying? Buy the house and rent it out so that somebody else can be paying you rent and paying off that loan while you go pay rent somewhere else.
Yes.
Yes, I agree with him.
Now you're still paying
I am
rent.
now
okay?
speaking from personal experience. This is not something I'm talking about from someone else.
Let's hear this. WAITHAKA Gatumia is a case study.
When
Go.
we started,
Uh-huh.
my wife
First
and
of
I
all,
said,
to find
we
out.
want,
Andika notes.
before we start getting things that we want, we get things that we need. So the first 10 years of our marriage, we lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment. While I was still coming here and shouting at people, save and invest, I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment.
But you're only two of you.
No, I have 3 children.
Or at that point.
At that point.
In that first 10 years, all 3 arrived.
Okay.
Well
That's
done.
10 years, all right.
By the
so
grace of
2 bedroom.
God.
And after the 3, you've added up.
Chandelier.
And I just said
So
those ones.
2 bedroom
City.
rental.
While we were there,
2 bedroom rental apartment.
we started investing in our first property,
Okay.
which was a bigger 3-bedroom apartment. Our tenant was living larger than we were there.
Okay.
What did that mean? It meant that they were paying more rent than we were paying.
Okay.
Which means your mortgage was being paid and your rent was also being
And
paid.
we didn't even take a mortgage. We started off with something that we could be able to, because mortgages, I told you, are so expensive because of time. We started with a personal loan, so it was even more heavy, the monthly repayments, but we could only do that by the grace of God, by staying in a smaller place for that period
So
of
the
time.
rental income was paying off the loan.
It wasn't even enough.
Okay.
It was helping to pay off the loan.
Okay.
But because we took it for a shorter period of time, that loan was completed faster. And before you know it, now you have an asset. Once you've cleared that loan, now you have something that is putting money where?
In your pocket.
In your pocket.
Question, teacher?
And
Question.
if at any point we were in financial strain, do we not own a house?
Question, teacher.
Could we move there? Yes.
Question,
Yes, sir.
question.
Yes, sir.
So, 2-bedroom apartment,
Yes.
you're paying X rent on it. You have bought a 3-bedroom apartment which is earning you X, Y rent in it. But you also have a facility
Yes.
that you're paying back to a financial institution, let's say bank. I assume it's a bank.
Yes.
Okay. Which you're paying Z for. Now, the XY income from the 3-bedroom apartment is not sufficient to cover the Z loan facility repayments per month. That means that your income, which is A plus B, wife, let's say household income A, is paying part of the Z
Yes.
and also paying the X rent and others. Now, X plus the Z minus XY, is it not the same amount as XY? Are you saying?
Same or more?
Are you saying that the rent you are paying for this
Yes.
2-bedroom
Yes.
plus the top up that you are putting
Yes.
was less than the rental income you're getting? Of course
No,
not.
I'm not saying that.
So if you went to occupy that house,
Yes.
the 3-bedroom house,
Yes.
right? And because all these things are coming from your income, your income A is paying rent of X and is paying the top up,
Yes.
right? if you went and lived in this 3-bedroom house, so you could still have paid that thing
Now
without
here-
having to do all this madafu of now pay there.
You see how
top
people
up
ask
here,
very good
and
questions
then now
on this
see
show?
what-
Here's a very good question.
Eh.
Guess what? That 3-bedroom did not exist when we started paying for it. It didn't. We paid into an off-plan project. So for the first couple of years, it did not exist. Do you see what we are facing here? What I'm trying to get, so it didn't exist. I'm trying to say to our friends and everybody, and to people in this room,
Yeah.
our focus, if we are thinking about wealth creation,
Yeah.
must be on assets that put money in your pocket. Why is this? Because if by the grace of God, by the time I get to my retirement age, which is in the next 20 years or so, if I have 10, 15 houses that are all paying me rent, whether I live in one of them or not, I am financially secure
True.
So you
because
imagine.
I can be able to do it. No, I'm just saying it is a fact.
at least you have
if
an
I have
income.
10 and if maybe all of them are not working, I can move into one of them, which is still mine. I still own it. Like that house, I still own it.
And the other 9 now.
And the other 9 are
give-
still paying for me. But the issue that we have right now is that for many people, the ambition is to own the house.
Yeah.
And once I'm in the house, I feel now I am financially secure. In fact, at that point now you begin to relax. And what I want to tell people here is owning the home is just one step towards financial freedom. You are not yet there. I want you to make sure that if you started off and saying, I'm not trying to say owning a home is a bad thing. Please, it's one of my personal ambitions. But when you're in that house, I want you to be so uncomfortable until it pushes you to build other assets that will be paying you to live in that house.
But WAITHAKA, assets.
Yes.
What other assets can one invest in other than houses? Because houses are expensive.
That's right.
It doesn't matter how you look at it, they're expensive. And there's no guarantee that you will get rent that will be able to pay off the mortgage. So what other investments can one put money in?
Okay. So now City has gone towards financial strategy. Watch this. I am young. I'm in my 20s, early 30s. Maybe I don't have all the money to build this house, these houses that we're discussing. No problem. But I have, hey, see that 5K that you're talking about as a starting point.
Yes.
So the aim is to invest in especially investments that have a compounding factor to them, where they are earning interest on interest or return on return over a long period of time. For example, going to the stock market. For example, going into unit trusts. For example, going into business for yourself. What I'm trying to say is that we're putting our small money where it will give us a return and hopefully a return on that return. And the aim is that during this period of time, you're building that asset base. It is growing. And then when I get closer to the time that now I'm going to be retiring, I sell my shares, I sell my units, I sell those and now purchase what we call income earning assets. And real estate is not the only income earning asset. City, I encourage you and everybody else. Everybody should do at least one trip to the central bank one day.
Central Bank.
Central Bank, here on Haile Selassie Avenue, if you're in Nairobi and the other branches wherever you are.
Why?
Why? You'll go there and you'll notice that the people there look a certain way. Most of the clients, when you go to Central Bank, have gray hair or no hair like me. Why? Because there are many retirees now who are earning their income from government bonds, which are excellent income earning assets.
For now.
Listen to what I'm saying. In Kenya, we have about a 5% return on real estate as far as rent is concerned. So rental real estate earns you a return cash of about 5%. Beginning of this year, the Kenya government offered a bond at 18.46% per year. So if I put my 30 million into that bond, and you're earning 18.46% cash every year, tell me that is not a good investment.
It is not.
Or you just follow
Why is it?
instructions, right?
No, he has asked,
He has
and I'm
asked you to
saying
say
it
it.
is not.
That's
That's
why
what
I
I'm
said
telling
he's still
him.
following
Tell me
instructions.
why do you think
no,
so?
I think he's being facetious.
No, I'm not
No,
trying to
I'm
be
waiting.
facetious.
I'm
Why
waiting to
is
hear
it?
from
You
you.
see-
Yes, City, go ahead.
You see, the assumption is this. See, you put your money in a bond, it means the government is borrowing from you.
Correct.
And they're paying you this interest.
Correct.
My first suspicion is, why is the government paying me so much interest to begin with? It means they need the money more than they're telling me they need the money.
Okay.
And they're enticing me, so they're offering me this interest.
Correct.
Now, if it's a government like ours that has more loans than they can count, there's always this lingering fear that they might default on their loans.
Correct.
If they default on their loans, then we will have a problem because the value of those bonds will go down drastically. So this interest that I'm looking forward to may not even exist. Case in point, Ghana.
Okay.
Okay.
So let me make a response to that argument. So, first of all, and I have to be clear about this, listen to this carefully. There is no investment on earth without risk. Talk to anybody right now who, in this city of ours, who owned million dollar, not even shilling houses, who are still flooded today. Could they foresee that risk? So is real estate 100% guaranteed? No. Is government bonds 100% guaranteed? No. If anyone can tell me of 100% guaranteed investment, then here's the thing. There is zero on this planet called Earth.
In Kenya, there's a 100% guarantee investment on land.
Again, it is not. Why? If we can go back into the history, you will find how many land cases that people bought thinking that they were there. People bought, and then what is it called? This sewage treatment plant comes next to your place, and your value of land goes down. Even that can be lost. Hey, people bought land, and then what is it called? The landslide happened on your piece of property, and suddenly there's a river in the middle of it. It is not 100% guarantee. And so if you invest only based on the level of guarantee, you're making a mistake. On this earth, there is zero investment without risk. So invest. Because you don't know. It was a risk to get in your car, into your matatu, to go to work. There's a risk. But you take it because of the potential return. And so, CT, I agree with you in this. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
In one hand.
So when you think about your investments, especially in retirement, you're going to be in one hand. You can have, the aim is to have a little bit of real estate, some government bonds, a business somewhere. What we're trying to say is aim to have what? Income earning assets. Because in that is your financial freedom.
That's the takeout.
That's it.
That's the takeout.
Yes.
You have to tell us how to get there.
It starts with that 5K monthly. That's what it starts with.
But this 5K, you're telling me I can't buy a car.
No, that 5K
I said
is
it's-
probably your salary. So what do you do?
So for that guy, we need to
make it
find a new
500.
salary. Quick one before we go off. This is a story I always give about our watchman. When I was in that 2-bedroom apartment, that watchman used to earn minimum wage about 13,000 a month. The guy came to work and he realized all these cars here. Somebody used to ask him wash my car, and he'd wash it at night. Before he knew it, he was washing all the cars, and that guy had essentially doubled his salary living in that place. You're asking how to do it? It is like that.
Double your income.
It is by doing small changes in your life and using the skills, gifts, and talents that God has given you to achieve even more than you have.
WAITHAKA, thank you very much. It's different from telling us started with one bean. And now you run a restaurant.
One egg.
Yeah, one
have a
egg.
poultry.
But it starts
It
somewhere.
always starts with the shrub that then becomes a forest.
Hey.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.